Thank you, Chair. Juntaen i Myanmar har for nylig opløst 40 politiske partier, og denne beslutning kan vi i Europaparlamentet ikke sidde overhørig. Opløsning af politiske partier er endnu en handling, der fundamentalt udhuler civiles demokratiske rettigheder. For nylig meddelte fagforeningen i Myanmar, hvordan også arbejdstagerrettighederne lider. For ikke nok med, at politikere fængsles, det samme gør fagforeningsledere. I EU har vi et særligt ansvar. Made in Myanmar-projektet modtager EU-funding. Men projektet respekterer ikke længere arbejdstagerne basale rettigheder. Også i EU har vi en forpligtelse til at sikre, at menneskerettighederne overholdes i Myanmar, og ikke at poste penge i projekter, der legitimerer juntaens styre. Jeg tager fagforeningernes opråb for Myanmar alvorligt og opfordrer her til aften til, at kommissionen overvejer at stoppe Made in Myanmar-projektet, hvis ikke fundamentale arbejdstagerrettigheder kan sikres. Menneskerettigheder er arbejdstagerrettigheder, arbejdstagerrettigheder er menneskerettigheder. Tak for ordet.
Paldies. Vārds autorei AL-SAHLANI, kundzei 1 minūte.
Thank you, Chair, dear Commissioner. Thank you, firstly, colleagues, for very good cooperation on this resolution. The military junta in Myanmar has, since the 2021 coup, launched horrific violence against its own population, resulting in the killing of over 3,000 civilians, the imprisonment of over 16,000 political prisoners, using rape as a weapon, also displacement of hundreds of thousands of people, of which many are belonging to the Rohingya people. And this is done with impunity. And this is done while Russia, China, and Serbia are still sending military equipment to the military regime. And the last trick of this military regime is to dissolve the political parties, resulting in dissolvement of over 40 political parties, which make it impossible to have a political life and an opposition, but also securing the continuation of the military junta in Myanmar. You know what? The sad fact is the biggest group in the parliament are not participating in this resolution. And I urge every member of the European Parliament belonging to the EPP group who still believe in democracy for all people, in freedom for all people, in peace for all people, to vote in favor of this resolution, because the people of Myanmar both deserve it and need it. Thank you.
Paldies. Nākamajai vārds autorei viceprezidente Heidi Hautala kundze. Lūdzu.
Dear colleagues, this evening I want to direct my words to the members of the ousted civilian government of Myanmar, the so-called Union Parliament. 2.5 years after the military coup attempt, the atrocities by the junta are growing, and the suffering of the people, including of the refugees, some of those, the Rohingyas that have been expelled from the country, are growing day by day. So now the international community must take very seriously its responsibility to protect the people. And it is in no way acceptable that the junta is planning sham elections this year, and for that purpose has closed and finished 40 political parties. Now it's very important that we coordinate internationally the sanctions and that we try to find ways to address the illicit criminal economy of the junta, which is also undermining the sanctions of the democratic countries. So we need to work together with the democratic forces, the national unity government, the Union Parliament, and the armed regional organizations that work all together. This is the moment that we have to take our responsibility.
Paldies. Nākamā vārds autoram Richard Czernecki kungam. Thank you very much.
Panie Przewodniczący, Panie Komisarzu, no w zasadzie to palców obu rąk nie starczy, aby policzyć debaty na temat Myanmaru, czyli Birmy, w tym parlamencie w ostatnich latach. Bo to jest taka never ending story, taka niekończąca się opowieść, bo cały czas o tym samym mówimy i trochę zachowujemy się, prawdę mówiąc, jak chór w chińskiej operze, która przez 3 akty śpiewa chodźmy, chodźmy, ale nie ruszamy się z miejsc. To znaczy, oczywiście mówimy, nazywamy rzeczy po imieniu, protestujemy i bardzo dobrze, słusznie. Natomiast jak przed chwilą powiedziała moja szanowna poprzedniczka, no wreszcie na poważnie powinniśmy to zrobić. No, wydaje mi się, że czas jest rzeczywiście najwyższy, no, tym bardziej, że do tej pory Unia Europejska w tej sprawie pewną taką bezradność prezentowała, to znaczy rzeczywiście nie używała poważniejszych środków nacisku ekonomicznego, a tylko to tak naprawdę nasi partnerzy Myanmar mogą zrozumieć i to radzę.
Ganz herzlichen Dank, Herr Kollege. Und wir fahren fort mit Frau Kollegin Mesure. Bitte schön, Sie haben das Wort.
Merci Madame la Présidente. 2 ans après le coup d'État au Myanmar, la répression sanglante de la junte militaire continue et toute dissidence est étouffée. Près de 3000 personnes ont été tuées, 1,5 million de personnes ont été déplacées. 13 000 personnes sont toujours détenues dans des conditions inhumaines. À la veille de prochaines élections, la junte décide de dissoudre 40 partis politiques, dont le NLD, et emprisonner plusieurs de ses membres. Il s'agit là d'une nouvelle étape vers le démantèlement complet de l'État de droit. En solidarité avec le peuple birman et en soutien à ses aspirations légitimes à la liberté, nous rejetons toute tentative des chefs militaires de légitimer leur pouvoir antidémocratique par des élections fictives. Nous nous tenons aussi aux côtés des syndicats sur la place parce qu'ils sont particulièrement visés par le régime. 16 organisations syndicales ont été déclarées illégales. Plus de 300 responsables syndicaux ont été arrêtés et au moins 43 ont été tués. Malgré cela, l'Union européenne continue, à travers le projet Made in Myanmar, à financer, grâce à des fonds européens, des entreprises du textile qui relaient la propagande militaire et répriment les syndicats. Ceci est inacceptable et nous devons y mettre un terme. L'Union européenne doit défendre le droit à la liberté d'expression, de réunion, d'association au Myanmar et faire tout ce qui est en son pouvoir pour les protéger. Merci.
Dankeschön, Frau Kollegin. Und jetzt fahren wir fort mit der Runde der Fraktionen. Als erstes hat das Wort für die Allianz der Sozialdemokraten Frau Kollegin Ince. Bitte schön.
Colleagues, I must say that I am very shocked, and it is a shame that the EPP group refused to take part in the negotiations of this very important resolution, and that they have been refusing to take part in the discussion. And this while the people of Myanmar are suffering. The political situation in Myanmar brings to light how fragile democratic development is. The claws of the military is getting longer and longer and pushing deeper and deeper into the power. The dissolvement of over 40 parties and arbitrary arrests of politicians are horrific. When addressing the oppressive junta regime in Myanmar, our demands are clear. We condemn and reject the military junta's illegitimate rule. We demand an immediate end to their attacks on civilians, labor unions, journalists, religious representatives, and peaceful democratic protesters, including the opposition. We demand an immediate end to their airstrike and use of rape as a weapon. The international community must now stand ready with all its available political tools. We must sanction the military junta and all those affiliated with it.
Dankeschön, Frau Kollegin. Für die Fraktion Renew Europe spricht als nächstes Frau Kollegin Hahn. Bitte schön.
Vielen Dank, Frau Präsidentin. Dear colleagues, this is the 5th time since the coup in February 21 that we're debating in this plenary about this. We've been calling on the Commission and we've been calling on the member states to act, and the only thing that has happened is the number of victims has been rising. There have been about 22,000 people arrested, 3,500 being killed. The military junta has ousted the democratically elected parliament and the government. For 2 years, the junta has been killing, banishing, arresting, and raping people with impunity. And now they want to legitimize their rule by a sham elections because they know they want to, boost their image, but they don't want a real democracy. They dissolved 40 political parties. They prevented opposition leaders by sentencing them on political motivated charges. Because it's the autocrats and the despots of this world that terrorize and murder because of their fear for freedom and democracy. And it's the 5th time and hopefully the last time that I'm calling in the chamber on the Commission to ensure that none of the military conglomerate benefits from the preferential access to our single market. Because as the European Union, we need to act and we need to stand in solidarity by those seeking for freedom and democracy in Europe and the world. Thank you.
Dankeschön, Frau Kollegin. Wir fahren fort mit Frau Kollegin Santos. Bitte schön, Sie haben das Wort.
Thank you very much, dear President. Bem, em Myanmar, aos assassinatos em massa, às prisões arbitrárias, à tortura, à violência sexual, às restrições severas da liberdade de reunião e de expressão, às execuções sob custódia, junta-se agora mais recentemente também a dissolução de mais de 40 partidos políticos e a convocação iminente de eleições fantoches para legitimar um regime absolutamente antidemocrático e absolutamente criminoso. Bem, diante disto, pouco nos resta a dizer mais. Resta-nos esperar que a União Europeia e que a Comissão, aqui representando o lado executivo da União Europeia, tome medidas no sentido de sancionar a junta militar. Não podemos continuar sem sancionar. Eu começo a ser um bocadinho cética em relação à aplicação de sanções, mas neste caso, Sr. Comissário, eu não sou nada cética em relação à aplicação de sanções. Temos que sancionar a junta militar e apoiar a sociedade civil numa tentativa de reverter esta situação verdadeiramente incontrolável.
Dankeschön, Frau Kollegin. Wir fahren fort mit Herrn Kollegen Cañas. Bitte schön, Sie haben das Wort.
Gracias, Presidenta. Gracias, Comisario. Según las Naciones Unidas, más de 2.800 personas asesinadas, más de 16.000 detenidos irregularmente, más de 1,2 millones de ciudadanos desplazados, disolución de los partidos políticos. Es decir, el nivel de degradación de Myanmar es insoportable. Y yo creo que aquí recurrentemente estamos diciendo, ¿qué podemos hacer? ¿Qué podemos hacer que no hayamos hecho? Pues hay cosas que se pueden hacer. Ya sé que esto no va a ser muy popular y que no es fácil, pero ya se ha hecho, se hizo con Camboya, que es la retirada de las preferencias arancelarias que dispone este país y de la cual una parte importante del gobierno se beneficia, que es el todo menos armas. ¿Por qué? Porque es un instrumento. Ese instrumento tenía que servir para, según dice para evitar la violación grave y sistemática de los derechos humanos. Es el momento en que se puede aplicar esa retirada temporal de las preferencias. Grave y sistemática violación de los derechos humanos. ¿Qué más grave y sistemática violación de los derechos humanos supone casi 3.000 muertos, más de 16.000 detenidos y más de 1,2 millones de desplazados? Gracias.
Dankeschön, Herr Kollege Cañas. Da mir keine spontanen Wortmeldungen vorliegen, kommen wir sofort zur Erwiderung der Kommission. Bitte schön, Herr Kommissar Reynders, Sie haben das Wort.
Thank you, Madam President. Honourable members, Myanmar is a critical country where brave people are fighting for democracy in line with the principled values of the European Union, and where a cruel regime is violating human rights. On the second anniversary of the military coup on 1st February 2023, the junta extended its so-called state of emergency for another 6 months. On 28 March, the military-appointed Union Election Commission decided to dissolve 40 political parties, including the National League for Democracy, arguing that they did not register with the military regime under its political parties registration law. On 29 March, on behalf of the European Union, High Representative Borrell issued a clear statement condemning this decision. A few days later, we witnessed the death list airstrike since the coup, causing 180 civilian fatalities, including women and children, in Sagaing State on 10 April. This drew condemnation from around the world, and needless to say, the current situation of rising violence in Myanmar is not conducive to credible and inclusive elections. Dialogue with all stakeholders is a prerequisite for an inclusive process that can provide a way forward to end the violence and pave the way for a meaningful democratic process that would truly reflect the will of Myanmar people. Therefore, the European Union supports the ongoing diplomatic efforts of the ASEAN chair, Indonesia, to achieve this. These efforts are ever more urgent in light of the increasing number of reports of atrocities committed by the military across Myanmar. We trust that the ASEAN summit, ongoing since yesterday and ending tomorrow, will also bring along concrete measures. The European Union also continues to advocate for a global arms embargo in the UN framework and to hold to account those who have perpetrated war crimes and atrocities. The Council of the European Union has adopted 6 rounds of restrictive measures against individuals and entities supporting the military regime and its human rights violations. Restrictive measures now apply to a total of 93 individuals and 18 entities. Those designated are subject to an asset freeze and a travel ban, which prevents them from entering or transiting through EU territory. In addition, EU persons and entities are prohibited to make funds available to those listed. Other EU restrictive measures will remain in place. The embargo of arms and equipment and export restrictions on equipment for monitoring communications, which might be used for internal repression, the export ban on dual-use goods for use by the military and border guard police, and the prohibition of military training and cooperation with the Tatmadaw. These measures complement the withholding of EU financial assistance to the government of Myanmar and the freezing of all EU assistance, a tool that might be perceived as a means to legitimize the junta. The EU and like-minded partners stand ready to adopt further packages of restrictive measures if the situation does not improve. If the sanctions adopted by the EU and partners have not brought back the military on the path of dialogue and the end of violence, they have sent a powerful message of support to the population and democratic force. And so we will continue to assess the situation to see if it's needed to reinforce the package already into place. The European Union will continue working closely with international partners on possible future targeted sanctions following the Sagang state airstrike and on civilians and the dissolution of democratic parties. Our leadership with key international partners and ASEAN in addressing and deepening human rights, humanitarian and political crises is essential, and I thank you for your support in such a way.